What's up, guys? It's Hot Wheels Tournaments. I'm here with a video that I suggested a while back. You guys seem to really want it. You've commented letting me know you wanted to see it. You voted on this video. It is the top 10 Hot Wheels supercar races from the past or the first 14 tournaments. This video was a lot of fun to make, to see how my content has evolved over the last couple of years. It's really fun. So starting off at number 10 from Supercars 8, we have a semifinal matchup between the Tesla Roadster and the heavy favorite in this tournament, the Ferrari 458 Italia with faster than ever wheels. Yet somehow it was the Tesla Roadster with a shocking upset. It got the early lead, just managed to hold off the Ferrari 458. So not only was it a good close race, but it was a huge upset. No one saw this coming. It was a really cool actually to see this car win it all in the end. At number 9, we have from Supercars 7, a first round matchup between two rivals, the Aston Martin DBS and the Ferrari 458. They'd met in the King of the Hill matchup. They met in the finals matchup. This time, it was a first-round matchup. The 458 got the early jump, but the DBS just managed to get it at the very end, winning by a nose in the end. You'll see here on the replay just how close it was. The DBS came back in the last couple of feet and got the 458 at the very end. Very good race. Next up at Supercars 3 at number 8, we have a finals matchup. This is the final race. It's tied at 2. Whoever wins advances to the King of the Hill matchup. And it was the Aston Martin DBS winning it. It was the first time we ever went 5 races in Supercars. It was an epic battle between the Ferrari 458 and the Aston Martin DBS. I still filmed on an iPhone 4S in those days. Next up at number 7 from Supercars 8, we have a first round matchup. We have the Corvette C6R versus the BMW M2. This one was an epic race. The M2 gets the early lead. The C6R just keeps on coming back, and in the final inches manages to get the BMW. It was extremely close. You can see here at the last possible second, the C6R comes back to get it. We had to go to replay on this one. This was when I first introduced replay. You can see the C6R just barely got it. It happened in the final foot of the track. It was absolutely awesome to see that happen. Next up at number 6 from Supercars 13, we have a quarterfinals matchup. This was the Battle of the Worlds tournament. So this is the American matchup between the Corvette C7 and the Dodge Viper. This was a really good one. So we're off. The Dodge got the early lead. Here comes the Corvette battling back and just gets it in the end. Very similar to that last race. Just the stakes were a little higher in this one as it was a quarterfinals matchup. So you can see here, final couple of feet, the C7R just manages to pass the Dodge Viper. Next up from Supercars 14 at number 5, we have a first round matchup between a couple of Forza cars, the Dodge Viper and the Ford Falcon race car. This one was really good. The opening race is a wreck. The Dodge Viper wrecked, so we had to re-race because if you wreck, we do re-race in Supercars. So we switch lanes as we classically do when there's a wreck. The Dodge Viper gets here a lead, but here comes the Ford Falcon and just blows by it. That was one of the quickest comebacks I've ever seen. The Ford Falcon gets in a big hole early, but then all of a sudden just comes flying past the Dodge Viper to take the win. So really good race and a really nice win for the Ford there. Next up from Supercars 9 at number 4, we have a King of the Hill matchup. Tesla Roadster versus Ford GT90. This is the win and take all race, and the Tesla wrecks. This was crazy. The Tesla was in the lead, going to take race 5 of the King of the Hill matchup and retain his spot as King of the Hill. He has the lead, and in the final foot of the track, he comes down and wrecks. It was absolute madness. I've never seen anything like this. This is the ultimate choke in Supercars. You can see, final 2 feet, it has the lead, it has the win in the bag, and it wrecks. This is race 5. All you got to do is stay on the track. That was absolutely crazy. You can see here, it just comes out of its lane, hits the post where the finish line is, and therefore doesn't finish. If we'd been using any other finish line, it would have finished, but this specific finish line, it's John Racer 3's, has a post in the middle, so it couldn't finish the race, so therefore it was a wreck instead of a win. A lot of weird circumstances played into this finish. That was most certainly one of them, the finish line, so we had to re-race it. This was really difficult to decide, because this was its second wreck at the time in the King of the Hill matchup, so we had to decide if 2 wrecks DQ'd a car. They hadn't occurred in the same race. They'd occurred over the course of 5 races. So me, John Racer 3, and his brother Chris had to have a conversation about what to do about the lane choice, what to do about DQing it or not. We decided not to DQ it, but in the end, to switch lanes. So the GT90 got the Tesla Roadster's lane, and the Tesla Roadster had to switch to the Ford GT90's lane. So we'd end up re-racing it, and once again, we were in a winner-take-all situation where the winner becomes the king of the hill. So it was a really weird series of events, but in the end, the decision was made by the Supercars judges, which are me, John, and Chris. Or John, Chris, and I should do that to make John happy. So the Ford GT90 would end up going on to take the win in 5 races. It was the first time a King of the Hill race ever went 5 races, where we'd had to use all 5 because it's a best out of 5 situation. So this was a really crazy one. Then in the final race, the cat started chasing the cars. It almost knocked the cars off course, and I think we get one of my favorite supercar clips of all time. In the finishing race, you can see the car in the slow-mo, or the cat in the slow-mo, just chasing the cars down the track. You'll see it here in a second. I think it's really funny. It was really cool, personally, just to see the cat come flying after the cars. You can see it right here. You'll see the cars, and then here comes the cat just flying in behind him. That was super cool. So the GT90 ended up becoming King of the Hill and becoming the most successful cars in Supercars history. Next up, at number 3, in Supercars 11, we have a first-round matchup. This was a last-second comeback. Jaguar F-Type Ford GT race. You'll see it here. We're off. The Jaguar with the early lead, and then at the last second, the race passes the Jaguar to take the win. The Ford at the last possible second winning the race. That's the latest comeback I've ever seen in a Supercars race. You'll see here, the Jaguar's leading it the entire time. In the final foot, the GT race takes the win. That was absolute madness. At number 2 from Supercars 14, we have the craziest move that's ever been pulled off, the Ford GTX versus the Ferrari F50. So this was a really crazy one. We had, I think, 2 wrecks in this race before we actually got to the point where we had a finish. You'll see here in the first one, the GT50 for Ferrari just takes a hard hit. Just a big wreck there, one of the biggest I've ever seen. So we went ahead and we had to re-race it. But once again, this time the Ford GTX wrecks. So we've had 2 wrecks by both cars in this situation. So at this point, I don't really know what to do, so I decided to keep them in the same lanes. And then this is where it gets crazy. The GTX has a lead, but comes out of its lane to block the F50 and take the win. That was absolutely crazy. I had no idea what to call that. I'd never seen a car come out of its lane and finish the race. Up until that point in Supercars, if a car came out of its lane, it was considered a wreck. But like I said, I'd never seen a car wreck, yet somehow managed to finish the race. So this was a really weird situation where I didn't know what to do. I ended up giving the win to the Ford GTX. It was a really nice block. Finally, Supercars 11, number 1, greatest race of all time. My favorite Supercars clip, the Lamborghini Aventador versus the Corvette C7. This one was absolutely epic. It's a semifinals race, high stakes, Aventador with the lead. Here comes the C7, but the Aventador passes back. There were 3 different lead changes in this race. That's the only time I've ever seen that in a Hot Wheels Supercars race, or a Hot Wheels race in general, where the lead has changed 3 different times. The Aventador got the early lead. The C7 then passed it. The Aventador then passed it back, making it a total of 3 lead changes. It was absolute madness. It was insanity. It's easily my favorite race. It was so much fun to rewatch that one because it was so cool. So that's it for the top 10 Supercars races. Please let me know what you thought. Do you think there are races that didn't make the list that should be on it? Or do you think there are races on the list that shouldn't be on it? Let me know what you think. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you all later. Peace.